And we are streaming. Shannon, you can put us on the record.
Go ahead.
This is a matter of Clark versus Bynum. Counsel, state your appearances, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. David Stimson, B64583, on behalf of Aaron Clark, the plaintiff.
And Susan Danke on behalf of Larry Bynum.
Anything preliminary, counsel?
I think the parties by and through our counsel have stipulated to some exhibits for the purposes of admissibility. Is that correct, Ms. Dinkin?
That is correct.
Specifically, the letter from Dr. Tracy Treelor, only for the purposes of what it says. I understand there are some, I don't even want to put clarifications, Susan, about what the basis of that is. I don't know how you want to handle that aspect, but we agree with those clarifications.
We've agreed to stipulate to admissibility of that letter based on the caveats that that diagnosis was made with no conversation with the school, the child's therapist, or the father. I believe those were the three caveats.
Okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Stimson?
That's my understanding, and Ms. Clark, I
Right.
think that's correctly accurate statement. Is that correct?
Oh, that's correct.
Okay. The second document, I believe that is our proposed exhibits 1.
The doctor's letter is exhibit 1. At least it's marked with a label saying exhibit 1.
Yeah, I believe we went with alphanumeric. So yes, we went with exhibit 1 for ours. The second exhibit that we've agreed are records as it relates to Mr. Bynum's employment, which we exhibits 3. 4, 5, 3 and 5. I'm sorry, 4 is not accurate. That's a letter from Mr. Bynum.
All right, so 5 is a stack of.
We'd stipulate to all of those. To 3, 4, and 5.
Okay. I'll have Shannon mark them. So the only thing that you don't stipulate to is 2?
Well, I mean, we'll get to the foundational aspects of that because I think Ms. Dinky has a bunch of text messages back and forth as well that are part of her exhibit lists. And her other exhibit list that we did stipulate to, Your Honor, is the school records, which I believe are marked as exhibit 7, maybe.
Did you submit those, Ms. Dinky? I'm not seeing them in the file.
Judge, I dropped those off, handed them to Nadine when I saw you yesterday. They're in a binder. So we brought you a hard copy rather than having to print stuff out.
All right, John, would you go see if there's a binder in on the, I'm gonna go check my desk.
It's got a face sheet that says the case caption and defendant's proposed exhibits.
All right, if you don't see them in there, run down and ask Nadine where they are.
I thought it would be simpler to actually hand them a hard copy than to email them and hope that they got where they needed to be.
Still live streaming too, FYI.
Okay, I've got them.
Perfect.
They just weren't with the file. I found them, John. Okay.
Defendant's exhibit 7, which are some student attendance records, Your Honor.
So 7 is stipulated?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
The rest are-
Any others?
There are no other stipulations, but as a preliminary matter, I guess, whether you want to, I guess I have one objection to associated with some of Ms. Dinky's exhibits, but we can either address them when she proposes them, or you can deal with my concerns about it now. It's entirely up to you. What would you prefer to do?
Why don't we deal with them when we get there, because I may or may not need them depending on how things are going.
Fair enough.
The only additional matter I have, Judge, is there are a number of exhibits attached both to the motion and to the hearing brief that were not on the exhibit list. I don't know if he's intending to admit those or not. My concern is I don't want the court taking, because they're attached to other documents, I don't want those becoming part of the record if they're not actually admitted.
They will not.
Thank you.
Okay, so 1 and 3 through 5 of plaintiff's exhibits and 7 of defendant's exhibits are admitted by stipulation. 1 is admitted with a couple of caveats that were already put on the record.
Otherwise, I believe that's all the preliminary matters that the plaintiff has.
Okay, are we ready to proceed with proofs, Mr. Stinson?
We are.
I'm assuming you're calling Ms. Clark?
I am.
All right, Shannon, I'm going to hand you these exhibits, if you could initial them. And then you'll be able to make a list if you want. Ms. Clark, raise your right hand, please. You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah.
You can put your hand down. State your full name, please.
Erin Michelle.
Aaron, your microphone isn't picking up real well, so you're going to have to maybe move it a little closer. I'm pretty sure it will flex to adjust that. Can you say something for me, please?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Much better. Yeah.
Much better.
I didn't get her last name, Your Honor.
Clark.
Last name is Clark.
All right, Aaron.
Go ahead, counsel.
You filed a motion requesting a modification in parenting time in this matter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And were the statements in that motion true and accurate when you filed it?
Yeah.
They still remain true and accurate.
Yes.
All right. Let's start with what is your current order for parenting time?
3 weekends a month for Mr. Bynum and 10 weeks during the summer. So I get 1 weekend during the school year and 3 weeks during the summer.
So during July 23rd, or on July 23rd of 2020, you entered into a stipulated order, right?
Correct.
And essentially that was to accommodate Jazz's school. And Jazz is the minor child, is that right? How old is Jazz?
She will be 6 in August, so she's 5.
Okay, so she's 5. So she attended kindergarten last year, right? And where was that kindergarten at?
Lenawee Christian.
And where is Lenawee Christian located?
Adrian, Michigan.
Had Jazz been familiar with Lenawee Christian prior to kindergarten?
Yes, she was.
How was she familiar?
She was in preschool 2 years prior to that. She would go to preschool the week that I had her.
All right, Aaron.
So
Again,
Ms. Clark, your microphone is breaking up, and we're not necessarily picking up everything that you're saying.
yeah, you really need to make sure that that is close to you as best you can, because the further away you get, the harder it is to hear you. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not a volume problem. It's your microphone is cutting out. So maybe if you stay close to the computer, it won't do that.
Okay.
So Jazz has been there for approximately 3 years now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Through daycare or pre-kindergarten and then kindergarten.
Correct.
Okay. And you arranged for the new parenting time schedule in which you have 1 weekend during the school year and Mr. Bynum has 3 weekends, and then Jazz is with you for the most of the school year. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And then he's to return on Monday morning to school.
Correct.
Okay. And in exchange for that, he has 10 weeks of summer and some extra break times. I won't get into the specifics, but the order speaks for itself. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
And you're asking the court to modify that parenting time to what?
To every other weekend during the school year and week on, week off during the summer.
And what about the return to school on Monday?
To have her return to school on Sunday.
Well, she wouldn't return to school on Sunday, right?
Sunday to me. Okay, to me.
So the modification request is instead of return to school on Monday morning, return to your home on Sunday evening, right?
Correct.
Where do you live?
I live in Tecumseh, Michigan,
How far away from school is that?
about 15 minutes.
And then where does Mr. Bynum live?
In Jackson, Michigan,
How far away from school is that?
about 40 minutes.
And so you're asking to return to your house on Sunday night rather than school on Monday morning. What time does school start?
On Mondays, it's late start, so it starts at 9 o'clock,
And what time does it start during the week?
8 o'clock.
Will that be true next year, even beyond where we're at with whatever the COVID arrangements were for Lenawee Christian?
Yes.
Okay. So we're not expecting a change next fall.
No.
Okay. So your modification request is essentially every other weekend rather than 3 weekends, approximately 3 weekends a month, and then Sunday night instead of Monday, and then divide the summer rather than 10 weeks.
Correct.
So that's a 4-week change of the summer and a 3 per month weekend change on Sunday nights and 1 weekend or a Saturday night on a normal month. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So you're asking for 4 days per month during the school year and week on, week off during the summer. So what brought you to be concerned about the current parenting time arrangement?
Well, when Jazzy first started kindergarten, it was brought to my attention that Jasmine needed extra help.
All right, pause, Ms. Clark. Couple things, okay? One, your mic is not picking up very well.
Okay.
All right.
Let me suggest something. We can turn your volume off on your computer and you can talk by telephone. Will that work?
Certainly.
Because your computer microphone is breaking up. It's going to take us forever to get through this testimony the way that it's working. Let me try. Can I have your phone number so that I can dial you in and have you speak by phone?
Yes, you're on in our office in another office on one of the laptops. So we've used it 100 times, but the phone number is 517-423-0999. And I will let the receptionist know. Put it through
Okay.
the extension.
Simpson and Associates, this is Crystal.
Hi, this is Judge LaFlamme. Could you patch me through to the room that Ms. Erin Clark is in?
Absolutely, one moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have reached the law office of Simpson and Associates. Our regular business hours are Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We are unavailable to take your call at this time. Please leave your name, phone number, and reason for your call, and we will return your call as soon as possible. Thank you. Sorry, Judge, I lost you. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Ms. Clark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, I think that'll work.
Sorry about that, Your Honor. That's partly my technological infallibility. I didn't know what I was doing, pressing the buttons.
Okay, why don't you ask your last question again, if you remember what it was?
I think I was asking her, generally speaking, what brought her attention to ask the court to modify the parenting time.
It was brought to my attention that when Jasmine started kindergarten, that she needed extra help in school. They have a program at LCS where they get extra help during school hours to help them get caught up with phonics, math, reading, and other essential things that they need for to be successful. So I enrolled Jasmine in this program.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask a couple questions, so just try to keep it succinct a little bit, okay, Erin? I know you're nervous, but it's
Okay.
just want to get specific information from you, not a long monologue. So part of that concern was Jasmine's academic scores, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you talk to Mr. Bynum about those academic scores?
Yes.
Okay. And what did Mr. Bynum and you talk about?
I talked to Mr. Bynum about how Jasmine may need extra help. There are other avenues that we can take, whether that be with tutoring after school, with this program that the school offers, but I received no response.
Did she get extra homework and things of that nature on sight words or on phonics? And I mean, she's in kindergarten, so we're talking about fundamental building blocks here.
Correct.
Did you provide those to Mr. Bynum?
I did.
So give me an example of a typical week, essentially. So you get information from the school about, she's not doing well on her sight words, for instance. I'll use that as an example. Would you communicate that with Mr. Bynum?
Yes.
Typically, how would you communicate that?
Via email.
Did you call him?
Or via email or on phone, depending on our schedules.
Okay. So you would provide this information to him on a weekly basis, a daily basis? How frequent?
A weekly basis. If nothing changed with the sight words or with the letters that she was learning, then there would be no email. Then you continue with the same letters that she started with.
At what point did you become concerned that this was not happening on Mr. Bynum's time?
When she was not memorizing, we go over them every day. When she was not memorizing and coming back, and she'd be like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay. So then I asked Mr. Bynum, have you been doing this with her? This needs to be a consistent thing that she does.
And so was that being done? What was his response?
His response was, well, I forgot, or I don't have time, and I kind of just get brushed off.
Okay. I mean, sometimes he would work with her, but not consistent.
Yeah, he was working at night.
Was Jazzy supposed to write them all out all the time?
Yes, to help with her memorization. If you say it, write it, touch it, feel it, to help her to retain it.
And was he doing that with her?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So she wasn't progressing at the rate the school wanted her or you wanted her. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
What did you do to start assessing beyond just blaming Mr. Bynum? Did you assess other things? Did you look at her medical conditions, her learning capabilities, etc.?
Yes. His work schedule, where he was living.
No. Ms. Clark, I'm talking about, did you assess your daughter Jasmine about these issues? Aside from just blaming Mr. Bynum, Okay. Did you look at other issues that could be contributing to her not being successful?
Oh, yeah, with ADHD and, being a young 5.
So what do you mean by being in the young 5s and ADHD?
Her birthday, is in August, so it's a summer birthday. Studies have shown that some kids that with summer birthdays, they're a young 5, but that doesn't mean that they're not ready.
So she was young for her grade is what you're telling me.
Correct.
But she's academically ready for kindergarten.
Yes, after speaking with the teachers that have been with her, yes, they felt that she was ready.
Did you feel the same way?
That she was ready for kindergarten?
Yes.
At the time when she got enrolled into kindergarten, I did think that she was ready for kindergarten. I didn't realize until she was in kindergarten the help that she needed.
So once you identified that, did the teachers identify that? Did you identify that? How did you find out that Jazz needed some extra help?
The teacher came to me and said, we have this TEACH program, which I'm very familiar with. I think it would be very beneficial for her to enroll. And so after discussing it and having no word, I enrolled her in this program to get her along.
All right, let's unpack that. After discussing and having no word with who?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You made the statement after discussing and having no word. Who are you referencing?
Oh, discussing it with Mr. Bynum.
So you called Larry once you found this out talking.
Yeah.
Okay. What was his response? Did he give you anything?
No, I got no response.
How many
It
times?
was okay.
How many times did you try to talk to him about this?
Probably twice.
And then you just made a unilateral decision.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Then you just made the decision to get her extra help.
Yeah.
What was the extra help?
The extra help is a program called TEACH that she goes twice a week for 15, 30 minutes to work on sequencing, identification of letters. There's several activities that they do with how to incorporate the phonics.
Did you give this information to Mr. Bynum?
I did.
Did he address any of these things or talk to the teachers?
No.
To your knowledge, he didn't interact in the school about this in any way?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
To your knowledge, there was no interaction between Mr. Bynum and the school about these programs or her problems and struggles?
No.
No, there was no I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be clear. No, he didn't make any contact to your knowledge, is that correct?
No, he did not make any contact with the school, no.
Did you later come to find out that another concern about the parenting time arrangement?
Did I find out about another parenting time concern?
Yes. So as time went on, Paul, did you learn of other concerns about the current parenting time arrangement?
Yes, that Mr. Bynum wasn't with Jasmine.
What do you mean?
Mr. Bynum was staying in a hotel, apparently for the sake of not to bring COVID home, but he already had COVID in August. And so Jasmine's been has been and was staying with Kimberly Mackey.
Who's Kimberly Mackey?
He has a child with that individual.
To the best of your knowledge, are they currently?
Objection as to what she would be basing that on. It would be hearsay.
Oh, it would be
We
interactions, seeing them together, or otherwise comments made by Bynum.
Just a foundation, I think, is what she's asking for, Mr. Stinson. How would she know that?
How would you know, do you have any idea or knowledge or basis of the knowledge of the relationship between Aaron and Larry?
You mean Kim and
Or-
Larry?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at you calling you Aaron, and yes, I'm sorry. How, do you have any firsthand knowledge of Kim and Larry's relationship? Is what I'm asking.
They're on again, off again. Other than that, I don't know.
Why would you qualify it as on again, off?
She has contacted me multiple times
Judge, that's what
before.
I'm objecting
when they
to,
broke
is
up.
what Ms.
Okay.
Mackey and Ms. Clark may have talked about.
All right.
That would be hearsay.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Clark.
Mr. Bynum isn't the source of the information, or unless she's actually witnessed it, it would have to be sourced in hearsay.
Ms. Clark, you understand that you cannot base any information that you're referencing on a out-of-court statement by another person necessarily. So did Mr. Bynum, however, did he ever tell you?
Understand.
Did Mr.
Go ahead.
Bynum ever talk to you about their relationship, say that they were broken up or together?
No, he doesn't talk to me about those things. No.
Okay, so you don't know what the stability level of their relationship was that would come from anything other than Kim's statements?
Correct.
Okay. Well, were you aware of Mr. Bynum? Mr. Bynum wasn't present then on the weekends? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Can you repeat that?
Mr. Bynum wasn't present during the weekends?
No.
How do you know this?
How do I know? Because when I would ask to FaceTime Jasmine, he was not present.
So you physically FaceTime Jasmine and he would never be around.
Correct.
Did you later file a subpoena with his employer to find out what his days of work were?
Yes, I did.
And did you discover he worked most weekends that Jazz was with him?
Yes, I did. I discovered that he was working a lot of hours.
And that, in fact, he wasn't living in his apartment either. Is that correct?
Correct.
Where was he staying?
At a hotel.
How many times he was living in a hotel?
How many times?
I'm sorry, let me rephrase the question. You discovered he was littering every day at a hotel.
Yes. Yes.
So much so that he terminated his lease agreement. Is that correct?
Correct.
I point to you plaintiff's exhibits 5, 4, and 5. I'm sorry, 3, 4, and 5. Do you have those in front of you, Ms. Clark?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Plaintiff's exhibits 3, 4, and 5. Are they in front of you on the desk there?
Yes.
These have been previously submitted to and admitted. Is that okay? Are these the records that you've discovered confirming that Mr. Bynum
Yes,
was with his
these are.
daughter?
Yes.
They demonstrate that he worked almost every weekend and that he did not stay where she stayed, but in a hotel. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that Jazz was not with him at the hotel?
When I would ask him, when this came to my discovery, when I asked him, it was none of my business.
Did you FaceTime, when you FaceTime Jazz, was she at a hotel?
When I FaceTime Jazz, no, she was not at a hotel.
Where was she?
Oh, at Miss Mackey's house.
So rather than being home with you, she was with a girlfriend of Mr. Bynum's.
Correct.
Wasn't spending time with Mr. Bynum, is that correct?
That is correct.
And he wasn't spending time with her.
Correct.
Did he bring her to school on Mondays?
No.
Again, Judge, well, never mind. Go ahead.
Is that a result of the work records?
Correct.
meaning he couldn't physically have been at work and also driven her to school.
Correct.
There were occasions he did take her to school. Is that fair?
Occasions, yes.
But the majority of the time suggests that he did not.
Correct.
How did he work on her sight words? Do you know?
I don't know.
How did he work on her assignments from the learning center?
That I don't know.
How did he, if he was at work during these weekends, work on any of her scholastic achievement?
That I don't know.
Do you know if she spent any real meaningful time over there during those weekends?
Judge, I'm going to object as to a lack of foundation.
Withdraw. You're asking the court to change that Sunday to Monday overnight and partially to this information that we discovered. Is that correct?
Correct.
What is the driving factor in all of this for you?
The driving factor for this is that she can be home. She can, get ready for the school day for the next day. She can sleep in her own bed. She can relax for a moment and know that she is home and she is safe and she is okay.
To your knowledge, has Mr. Bynum's living conditions changed since we filed this motion?
That I am not aware of.
Do you know where Mr. Bynum currently resides?
Can you repeat that?
Do you know where he lives now?
No, I do not.
Do you know where you've been informed that where he lives?
The last I knew he lived was in the hotel or at his mom's.
Or at his mom's. Is it your understanding he lives at his mom's now?
From what I know is that he's supposed to be at his mom's.
Does anybody else live at his mom's?
Yeah, his sister, brother-in-law, and their 2 kids,
And then his mother.
and then his mom.
Do you know have you ever been to his mother's house?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Have you ever been to his mother's house?
I have, yes.
How many bedrooms are in the house?
Just 2.
So there's 2 bedrooms in the house.
Yes.
There's his mother living there.
Hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
His sibling and their spouse living there.
Yes.
They have 2 children also.
Yes, 2 boys.
And now Mr. Bynum's living there.
Yes.
And he's proposing that it's also for Jazz to live there.
That is correct.
Is the basement finishable, that it's appropriate for Jazz to be down there?
The basement is finished, but it's not appropriate for a room.
Why not?
It's an older home. There's not an egress window to be able to even put a room in.
So it's not going to be sufficient code-wise to make a bedroom out of it.
Correct.
Do you know if Mr. Bynum's changed his employment recently?
The last time I knew, which was 2 weeks ago, he quit his job.
So he quit his job with the Department of Corrections?
Yes.
Do you have any knowledge that you have firsthand knowledge of why or how?
No.
Do you know if he was quit or fired?
That I don't know.
Did Mr. Bynum tell you that he was changing schedules?
No, he did not. Actually, how I found out was when I took Jasmine to the doctor for a med check, the insurance didn't work. And so I texted Mr. Bynum and said, hey, did your insurance card number change? Because sometimes that happens. And he said, oh, by the way, I don't work there anymore. I quit.
So he didn't update the insurance or let you know any of that information?
No,
Did he say where he's working now?
no.
How would you characterize the communicative relationship between you and Mr. Bynum?
It's touch and go at times. Sometimes we have our moments where we can actually co-parent. Other times, we disagree. Mostly, I don't really get a response, so I have to do what's best for Jazz.
So, I mean, that's fair. So, Mr. Bynum's made some accusations that you don't really communicate with him, you just do what you want. Is that how you would characterize it?
Repeat that.
So Mr. Bynum's made some accusations that you don't really communicate, you just dictate and do what you want. Was that how you would characterize your communicative style?
No, that's not how I would characterize the communication.
So how would you characterize it?
I would characterize it as there are times where I need an answer and I can't get a hold of him, or I can't get him to respond to certain things, or he just blows me off. So I do try my best. Of course, I'm not perfect, to communicate with Mr. Bynum, to co-parent with Mr. Bynum. Sometimes it is a little bit more difficult too.
But you think it's in Jasmine's best interest to still co-parent with Mr. Bynum, right?
Correct.
Right. You've never asked for a change of custody, and you're not asking for a change of custody.
No.
You're merely just asking to modify parenting time to be more accommodating to what Jazz's needs are.
Yes, that is correct.
Did you talk to Mr. Bynum about the medical diagnosis of ADHD?
I did, actually, I did.
Can you explain?
I talked to him. Oh, sorry.
Clark, before, let me set that. I just want that, and then I'll ask you to fill it in. Okay. Explain how you talked to him, when you talked to him, and then ultimately how you ended up with a diagnosis. Okay.
Okay. So the school came to me and said, I know
Judge, I'm going to
ADHD
ask that
runs.
we be specific about who, I'm assuming there was a person that came to her, who that person was.
That's fair.
Okay.
Since schools don't talk.
I understand. Miss Metzler, her kindergarten teacher, came to me and said, Jasmine is struggling with focusing. She's, sometimes lollygagging in the hall. She's disruptive. She's not listening, and she knows that there is ADHD that runs in my family. So, she said it wouldn't hurt to get her tested. I said, okay. So I called Mr. Bynum and said, hey, this is what I said. I know you want me to say Miss Metzler, but I said the school came to me and said that we need to get her tested for ADHD. I'll start the process to get her tested. Okay, no problem. This is on a phone call. Okay, no problem. So I proceed to move forward with getting her tested and got the diagnosis. I then called Larry and told him, hey, I got the diagnosis. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. So you got a diagnosis. From whom?
Mm-hmm.
Who gave you the diagnosis?
I got a diagnosis from Dr. Treelord, her pediatrician. She did the testing.
So Dr. Treelord and Tecumseh was her Jasmine's pediatrician.
Yeah.
She did the testing and came up with a diagnosis.
Correct.
And then you got a hold of Larry, and you may continue with the process, please.
Right, because I didn't want to put her on medication right away because I was a little hesitant with her age and, I know that medicine is not the end all be all. I know that counseling and parents on board is, helps also. So I wanted to express to him, I don't know, I'm a little uncomfortable about it, but the doctor wants to try it and see, what do you think? And he just said, okay. So I went along with what the doctor wanted to try her on a low dose of a medication, which I don't know if she takes it on his time, but on my time, she's done phenomenal with it.
So she does a pretty good job of staying consistent with her low dose ADH meds. What is the med?
It's Ritalin extended release.
So it's required to be taken regularly to make sure that the distribution levels are correct.
Yes, that is correct.
When did she start this?
She started this
Ballpark, I don't need an exact date.
it was back in May, June, May.
Of 2020 or 2021?
2021.
Okay, so about a month and a half ago.
Yes.
And how has she responded?
Yeah, she's responded really good. The impulsive, the stopping and focusing, like, is this a good choice or is this a bad choice? Like, she's really done better with her sight words, memorizing her sight words better. Just being able to sit down and have, a conversation, and, she's doing much better with picking up her toys. Also, like, you ask her, she's not all over the place, like, oh, I got to pick up my toys, so let me do it. So task-wise, she's doing much, much better.
It's a little bit late for you to see an adjustment in perhaps exactly her school behavior, or did it affect her school?
When she did start the medication, the teachers did notice that she was able to sit down and not disrupt the class as much. She was following directions better. She was not lollygagging in the hallway.
Well, let's talk about lollygagging in the hallway. Mr. Bynum has proposed defendant's exhibit number 7, which is some school records, right?
Yes.
And in those school records, they're highlighted as tardies and absences, okay?
Yes.
So if Jazz was tardy because she was lollygagging, is there a difference between, I'm sorry, let me ask you this way. Is there a difference between her lollygagging and being marked tardy, or you not getting, or Mr. Bynum not getting her to school on time and being marked tardy?
Yes, there is a difference.
What's the difference?
The parents physically have to go in and sign them in.
So if you were late bringing her to school, you would have had a record that indicated that you had to sign her into school. Is that correct?
Correct.
We have a new participant here on, maybe, or my screen just adjusted and there's a Carol.
Oh, she's been there. That's my court court clerk.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just maybe noticed it. Apologize. The second, what's been proposed is that the defendant's exhibit number 7. What kind of record is this?
This record would be a student's attendance record that shows that she was absent because of being quarantined, and that she was tardy a few times because she was lollygagging in the hallway.
So this is mostly her not paying attention in the hallway and getting to her homeroom on time.
Correct.
Have you addressed this with Jazz?
I have addressed this with Jazz. Yes.
Have you spoken to Mr. Bynum about her lollygagging?
I did mention it to him, like, hey, she's not getting to class, like, she needs to get into class. We both can see these records online.
Are you overly concerned with the lollygagging tardies?
Am I overly concerned about the lollygagging?
No. Yes, that's what I'm asking.
I'm not overly concerned. I mean, she's a social butterfly, so I kind of know it's going to come. And with her having the ADHD, I'm not surprised either. I mean, I'm concerned, like, you need to get to class, but I think it'll come. You know, we just stay on her, it'll come.
These September absences, you said they were COVID related?
Yes.
What, can you explain, please?
Mr. Bynum had COVID, so Jasmine had to be quarantined
Where did she come?
at my house.
Did Mr. Bynum tell you that he had COVID? Or how did you discover that she was exposed to COVID during Mr. Bynum's time?
I found out that he had COVID because I received a phone call from the school that Mr. Bynum called the school to inform them.
So he didn't call you.
And then I needed to come and pick up my kids.
He didn't call you. He contacted the school.
Correct.
Does Jasmine ever seem to be affected by the commute to school on Monday mornings?
Judge, again, I'm going to object unless there is some foundation for this question.
Well, Your Honor, Ms. Clark is certainly able as a mother to understand and read her child and see if she's tired or affected just by looking at her and interacting.
She doesn't see her on
But
Monday mornings.
she's not there on Monday mornings when she's at school.
She sees her when
If
she gets
Mr.
home.
Bynum's, well, I guess she can comment on how she appeared when she comes home from school. I mean, not how that pertains to how she was when she got to school is a bit of a stretch, but I can certainly hear that.
Or the other question would be if whether there's school records associated with her behavioral marks by her school record that would be relevant to that. I mean, there's a million different ways.
There are no like behavioral marks, but the principal, Miss Hartwig,
Objection, Judge.
Yeah, you got to stop.
Yeah, you can't tell us what the principal told you. Only the principal could testify to that.
okay.
So Aaron, did you witness anything from Jazzy when she comes back from her dad's?
When she would come home after school, yes, I would. She would be distraught. She would be upset. Just exhausted.
When you say distraught and upset, can you assess why or how or what was the root cause?
She was upset because she didn't get to see her dad, and or that that she was worried that she wasn't going to come back to me.
So can you tell if she's over it? I mean, she's 5 years old. I've raised 4 kids myself. I can tell when my kids are tired and you can tell when they're just overly tired. Are you able to assess in any way, shape, or form if she's tired, overly tired? Are these concerns that are a result of fatigue? Are they a result of anxiety or distress? Can you tell us, her mom, a general sense of what's causing some of this?
Overly tired. When she comes back, it's like she hasn't slept in her own bed for so long. She gets grumpy, of course. There's that transition period also from dad to mom that happens. But I just have to reassure her that we both love her and everything is going to be okay. And now she's home.
How would you qualify the impact on the traveling on her, the impact on Jazzy? Would it be burdensome, not burdensome? It doesn't have an effect?
Oh, I think it does have an effect.
Would you say that the travel overly burdensome?
There were times where there was times that it was time to do the exchange, and she would just scream in my arms, "I don't want to go. I don't want to go." Is
that a parenting time exchange, or is that because of the travel? I'm asking more specifically about the travel.
I don't know if it was a travel or if it was a parenting time exchange, but when you have to hold your child and they're screaming at that age, it's a lot. I'm sorry.
So
I'm good.
I'm going to be a bit callous here, Ms. Clark, and I appreciate, and I'm conducive of the concern, and you're really trying to do what's best for Jasmine. But what I'm really trying to find out is, do you think that this current arrangement is burdensome?
I think the travel has, the travel of going back and forth, it has an impact on her. I think, not being able to see her friends and do things with her friends because there's this group of girls that she has clicked with, that has an impact on her also.
Can you give examples of when her father would keep her from her friends or not allow her to have access to her friends?
When there was a few times that gymnastics fell on his parenting time because of no school, and Mr. Bynum didn't take her.
So she is signed up for a gymnastics class like a lot of 5-year-olds are, right?
Right, yes.
And I mean, it's 5-year-old gymnastics. This isn't the World's Cup here or USA Olympics.
No, it's not. No, it's not the World Cup, but she does enjoy it and it lets her express herself.
Well, especially with her ADHD, that ability to express and let out that energy is rather important.
Yes.
But Mr. Bynum won't accommodate that if it falls on his time?
No.
Has there been tutoring offered this summer?
Yes. When parent-teacher conferences were, they suggested, I asked Ms. Metzler, her teacher, if, do you think that she would need tutoring? And she said, oh, yes, definitely. So she'll keep retaining what she has learned. So I presented it to Mr. Bynum, we can find a place in Jackson, but I think that she needs, additional tutoring for the summer. And then the school offered a 2-day-a-week on Zoom free reading program. I forwarded the email to Mr. Bynum and, said, hey, I think this would be really beneficial. Can I go ahead and sign her up? And he stated to me in an email, no, I don't think that that'll be beneficial. I have plans for her.
What are those plans?
I don't know.
So he's never actually articulated a plan for her summer education?
No.
And you provided an option via Zoom?
Yes.
Any reason why he would say no?
I don't have an answer for that.
Are there any other concerns you have about the parenting time arrangement as it relates to Jasmine?
Just the inconsistency.
What do you mean by that?
The inconsistency of, which house is she going to be at, or who's going to be watching her, or is dad going to be there?
And that's based upon his living arrangements changing multiple times. Is that fair to say?
Say that again, I apologize.
Is that a result of living arrangements?
Yes,
Is it fair to say that Mr. Bynum has frequently failed to exercise parenting time by not being present during parenting time?
yes,
Is it fair to say that prior to this most recent revelation, quitting his job, and at the time we filed this petition and heard the motion, he was not able to reasonably, exercise his parenting time because of his employment?
that is correct.
You don't know what his current employment status is.
I do not.
You inquired about it?
I have not, because normally when I ask questions about what's going on, I get told it's not my business.
You've asked the court to modify the summer parenting time from 10 weeks throughout the course of the summer by Mr. Bonham to a week on, week off schedule, which is essentially 6 weeks and 6 weeks. Is that correct?
Correct.
What's the basis for that modification?
So that Jazz can get summer tutoring, that she can get the extra help that she needs on the weeks that I have her. So that way she doesn't lose the progress that she has made.
Have you ever seen an effect on Jazz when she's away from either of you for more than 7 days?
Oh yeah, she gets very, am I gonna see you again? Are you gonna FaceTime me? Am I gonna talk to you? Like, you have to reassure her, constantly reassure her.
Anxious would be another way of describing that.
What'd you say?
Anxious would be another way of describing that.
Yeah, she gets very anxious, very.
And do you think that more frequent interactions, as in a week on, week off, rather than 10-week blocks, would be more beneficial to her?
Absolutely.
Has Mr. Bynum proposed what the 10 weeks are for the summer?
No.
Have you requested weeks for the summer?
I have requested weeks for the summer.
And what was the response?
That I only get 2 weeks during the summer, and that he is supposed to get all 10 weeks at a time.
So it's Mr. Bynum's intention to exercise 10 consecutive weeks.
Yes.
Do you think that's what's best for Jasmine?
Absolutely not.
Did you ask for any financial recourse associated with this petition?
As far as her TEACH program,
As far as contributions towards education, towards tutoring, towards extracurricular, or child support in general?
I did ask for help for the TEACH program, and was told that he could not afford it. So since then, no, I haven't asked for anything.
Do you know what his approximate gross income was from 2020?
From the records that I had, about 80,000.
And does he pay child support currently?
Nope.
But he wouldn't contribute towards her extra tutoring requirements.
Correct.
Are you asking the court, and it's my understanding you're not asking the court for financial contribution?
No, I am not.
This is purely just about what's best for Jazz and not financial recalculation.
Correct.
Is there anything else, Ms. Clark, that you think is necessary to add?
No, not to my knowledge.
Well, okay. Let me move on to one more topic, because I am sure Ms. Dinky is going to bring it up when she cross-examines you, Ms. Clark. You are married currently?
Right. Yes, I am.
And you've been married to the same man for how long?
4 years.
Now, like all marriages, there's good years and bad years. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
I mean, has there been times when you guys have had troubles in your marriage?
Yes, about 2.5 years ago, we separated.
For how long?
4 months.
Did you still talk? Did you still communicate? Did you still go out on dates?
Yes, after we were going to counseling and working on things, yes, we started, and then I moved back in.
That would have been in 2019.
Correct.
So almost a year and change before the last order issued.
Correct.
So that would have been dealt with, and any concerns about that would have been dealt with in the most recent order.
Correct.
Okay. No further questions from Ms. Clark at this time.
Questions, Ms. Denke?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Clark, you said on direct that you were asking during the school year to take 4 overnights from Mr. Bynum. Is that right?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, you were breaking up.
On direct, you said that you were taking 4 overnights during the school year from Mr. Bynum. But it would be 5 overnights, wouldn't it? It would be a 3-day weekend plus 2 Sunday nights. Is that right?
If you say so, I haven't done the math yet.
Okay, let's do it now. He currently has 3 weekends out of every 4 during the school year. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you want to do every other weekend?
Yes, that is correct.
So he would lose a weekend,
That is correct.
and his weekends are 3 nights.
Yes,
And you also want to change and so that he loses his Sunday nights on his 2 remaining weekends. Is that right?
correct.
So that would be 5 overnights on the average month.
Yes,
And during the summer, you want him to go from 10 weekends to 6 weekends. Is that, or it's 10 weeks to 6 weeks. Is that right?
that is correct.
And that would be 28 days. 4 weeks times 7.
Yep,
Okay. So we have 9 months. We're losing 5 days. And then during the summer, we're losing 28 days. Is that right?
yes,
So, and I recognize there's some holidays and other things in there. But basically you're asking that he lose 73 days a year of parenting time.
I'd have to object to that question in foundation, Your Honor. That assumes facts, not in evidence. What Ms. Dinky's particularly doing is extrapolating that every single day of the month during the school year is a full 4 calendar weekend school year without a myriad of holidays and vacations and Thanksgivings and Christmas breaks and spring breaks that are associated with that. So while I get where she's going with this, there's a reduction, a fairly substantial, if she wants to call it a substantial reduction. I think to qualify a specific number on it is somewhat irrelevant. It's probably more than 50, but less than 75.
Well, let's say it's definitely more than a month and maybe closer to 2 months of parenting time. Right?
I mean, it's only a month. I got 32. If you take 28 plus 5,
5 each month out of for 9 months.
okay,
So 73, even if we subtract 13 for Mr. Stimpson's holiday time, which you both get because you alternate all the holidays, we're still talking
Correct.
about 2 months of parenting time.
During the school year
For the entire year.
or all together?
Yeah. Out of 12 months of parenting time, he's losing 2 months.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't think that's substantial?
No, I do not. Not when he's been not exercising his parenting time.
Okay. Let's talk about school for a bit. Do you know what age
Okay.
a child, what the birth date is, the cutoff is for going to kindergarten?
The cutoff is September or something.
And your daughter's
September 1st, I believe.
September 1st. And your daughter's birthday is August.
17th.
So she just barely made it under the wire.
Objection.
Mhm.
It's argumentative and, I mean, it's a little bit colorful, but
Do you
I
think,
think it's a fair question.
do you think that the problems that she's having with school are in part because she probably should have waited another year?
Yes and no.
And in fact, there was a suggestion by one of her specialists at school that perhaps she should get held back.
It's not special ed, it's tutoring.
Hold on. Let her finish her question first. Go ahead and ask your question again. Ms.
I
Dakin.
said one of the specialists that she works with at school, not that she's in special education.
Yes.
Did you and Mr. Bynum meet with the school to discuss holding her back a year?
Well, no, not together. We did not. The parent-teacher conference was back in November. He did not attend that one. There was another one in January. Mind you, we both get the links that we can set up our parent-teacher conferences on our own. He did not attend that one either. So at that point, the school talked to me about it. And we sat down at parent-teacher conference and went through line by line.
I'm sorry, in January, you talked about holding her back?
We did discuss it, that if it was, is it a possibility? And at that time, they said no.
Did
She's
you,
progressing.
did you get a recommendation in May that she should get held back?
Did I get a recommendation in June? Yes, I did.
And at that point, did you and Mr. Bynum sit down with the school to talk about it?
We didn't sit down together. We had our separate meetings and then we talked about it together.
In fact, you went in and met with the school and didn't tell Mr. Bynum you were doing that, did you?
I mean, it's no different than him going and talking to the school and not telling me.
He contacted you about, let's set something up with the school, and that's when he found out you'd been into the school. Isn't that right?
That is not correct.
Okay. Did you get contacted by Mr. Bynum about Jasmine and Ms. Mackey testing positive for COVID? So you needed to quarantine Jazz so that she could get tested? I mean, not Jasmine, but Ms. Mackey and her daughter.
Did I get contact of that? No, I don't recall.
By Mr. Bynum.
No, I do not recall.
So what you're testifying to is the first you knew that your daughter potentially had been exposed to someone with COVID while she was with her dad was after the school contacted you.
Correct.
You had had no contact from Mr. Bynum.
About Miss Mackey? No.
About COVID, Jazz being exposed to COVID.
About him being exposed, he never contacted me. The school contacted me.
The ADHD diagnosis. You took your daughter to her pediatrician
I did.
down in Ohio?
I did. Yes, that's where her practice. Well, she has one in Tecumseh and one in Ohio.
Oh, I'm sorry. So does she see your pediatrician in Tecumseh then?
Either place she sees them when she has an opening.
Okay. And you said that Mr. Bynum had cleared you getting her assessed. And then you told him about the results of the appointment.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You testified that you had talked to Mr. Bynum about wanting to get her assessed. And he said that was okay. And then you went ahead and set up the appointment and had her tested and then told him what the doctor had prescribed.
Correct.
Did you tell him ahead of time when the appointment was scheduled so he could participate?
No, because at that time I didn't know that he wasn't working. So because of his work schedule, there was no way that he would be able to make it. And nor did he ever indicate to me that he even wanted to go.
You understand he was working at night, right?
I mean, if you count 4 a.m. to noon as nighttime, sure.
Okay. And you could not get an appointment in the afternoon?
Not with my work schedule, no.
Okay. So you couldn't take time off at your job. He couldn't take time off at his job.
No.
Okay. Does the pediatrician have his information so that he can get information directly from them?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. He can have access.
Any idea why they would say they have no record of his name or any information about him?
Objection calls for speculation.
No, that I don't know.
Okay.
All right, well, wait a minute. I think it's a fair question. It doesn't, if she has an idea why they might say that, then she can say that. She can answer. If she doesn't, she can say she doesn't have any idea. I think it's fair for cross.
That I do not know. I know that when I go to check her in to register, they ask, is Mr. Bynum? I said, yep. And they say, okay. Like, I don't know why there's no records or anything.
Okay. You mentioned that you work. Where do you work?
I work in Farmington Hills.
Do it for whom? Doing what?
I'm the director of nursing.
For whom?
Farmington Hills Inn.
I'm sorry, you cut out. Farmington Hills what?
Farmington Hills Inn.
INN, like a hotel inn?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a facility?
It is a facility. It's an assisted living.
It's an assisted living facility and you're the director of nursing.
That is correct.
Okay. And how many hours a week do you work?
No more than 40, less than 10. It depends on what my week looks like and if I can work from home. I can flex my hours. I work no weekends, no holidays.
And do you, how long does it take you to get to work?
About an hour.
Round trip or each way?
Each way.
Okay. And prior to COVID, were you working from home or were you going to work at Farmington Hills?
No, I was not working at Farmington Hills. I was working at the Washtenaw County Jail as a nurse.
Oh, I'm sorry. You've changed jobs?
I did.
Okay. So when did you get the director of nursing position?
I was working both. So back in March is when I went full-time at Farmington Hills Inn.
Okay. And how much will you be making a year?
I don't know how that's relevant right now.
You don't get to decide that. Just answer the question.
I make $27 an hour.
Okay. Working 40 hours a week, or it varies? What time do you normally leave for work in the morning?
It depends.
On a normal work day, what time would you leave for work?
Probably about 7 in the morning.
So you're not taking Jasmine to school?
I do, if I have Jazz, I take Jazz to school.
So on a normal work day, Tuesday through Friday, you don't go to work at 7 a.m.
It's hard for me to answer this question because I don't have a normal work day. So it's what are you asking, what I got hired in as, or what it is right now?
Well, has it changed because your job title changed, or has it changed because of COVID?
It's changed because my job title has changed and I have more flexibility.
Okay. So when did your job title change?
My job title changed in March 30th
Of this year?
of this year.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And as director of nursing, you can do that remotely.
Yeah.
Are you expected to be there at all during the week?
There are times where I do have to go into the facility, yes.
Once a week, once a month, 3 times a week?
About once or twice a week.
Once or twice a week. Okay. So once or twice a week, you go in at 7 a.m. and you leave at what time?
4.
And you get home then about 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. And the rest of the time you said that you're working from home.
Correct.
Who picks Jasmine up from school?
My nanny.
Okay. How many nannies has Jasmine had?
2.
Did she know the nannies prior to them starting to take care of her?
Yes, before they started taking care of her, yes.
Were they friends? How long had she known them before they became her nanny?
Probably about a month because I wanted them in the home to get acclimated with Jasmine while I was there.
Does anyone else take care of Jasmine while you're working?
No.
Your husband doesn't take care of Jasmine?
Depending on his work hours, but no.
Okay. So maybe I've got his name wrong. Do you have my exhibits there in front of you?
Which exhibit?
You do have the stack there?
I do, yes.
Okay. Let's look at exhibit 10. Oh, I'm sorry. Exhibit
From 2
11.
years ago?
Can you take a look at exhibit 11? This is January of 2020.
How do you know this is January of 2020?
Because I see a date, January 14, 2020, 11:20 a.m. on exhibit 11.
Oh, I must have missed it. Hold on 1 second. Okay.
Is this an email between you and Mr. Bynum?
I would assume so, yes.
It indicates that you're going to be at work, but that Ryan can bring the kids to celebrate this party.
Correct, because I got called into work.
Who is Ryan?
My husband.
So he does take care of Jasmine.
I mean, he's my husband, yes.
Okay, well, a minute ago you said that no, he doesn't. So I'm just trying to clean that up.
Well, it's a vague, I mean, it's a vague, like, does he do the care all the time? No, but when I get called into work, is he there for me? Yes.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just trying to ask the question. You're the one who said she has unstable caregivers. Can you take a look at number 13? Do you see that text message? April 30th of 2020, Ryan is going to be doing school with Jasmine. You're going to be at work. Is that right?
That is correct, because we had a COVID issue going on.
Okay. What does Jasmine call Ryan?
For the longest time, she called him Ronnie.
What
But
does she
just
call him now?
recently, she'll call him Dad.
Okay, so she's not his biological dad,
No,
but he plays a father role in her life.
absolutely.
And certainly she's able to understand that you can love and have two dads, right?
Absolutely. And
You've
she'll say
made-
that I have two dads.
You've made a big thing in your motion about the fact that she calls Ms. Mackey mommy sometimes.
Objection. I mean,
That is correct.
Your Honor,
Hold on,
a big thing is very subjective by Ms. Dinky. Did she make a statement that this is something that has been happening? Sure, but that's not facts that are in evidence about a big thing.
It's been in every single pleading and amended
Not in this
pleading we've
pleading here.
received.
it's a fair question. Go ahead, Ms. Danke.
Ms. Mackey is the mother of Jasmine's half sister, is that right?
That is correct.
Have you told,
Say that again. I missed the connection there.
so Jasmine has a half sister whose mother is Ms. Mackey, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Jasmine, as you've already testified, spends a lot of time with Ms. Mackey and with her sister.
That is correct.
And presumably her sister calls Ms. Mackey mommy because she is her mommy.
Yes.
Have you told Jasmine that she can't call Ms. Mackey mommy?
I have not told Jasmine that she can not call Miss Mackey mommy. What I have said, because there have been fights between me and my 5-year-old of who her real mom is, that I am her mom, her real mom, and that is your stepmom. That's where that has come from. Since then, I don't know any further.
Why has it been important to you to tell the judge in your pleadings that she calls her mommy? Is that a problem?
Because I think that it's disrespectful.
Is it disrespectful to let her call your husband daddy?
And I do correct her.
So you think that's disrespectful too?
To call my husband daddy? Yes, because her dad is Larry and she's still figuring out, you know, the ins and outs of going back and forth and, you know, having separated parents.
But we just talked about, and I thought you agreed that kids can understand that they have two daddies, two mommies, and that's okay.
It depends on if you can co-parent efficiently, then yes. But if not, then no.
Okay. Does your mother also take care of Jasmine?
I mean, very rarely, but no.
But yes, very rarely, but yes.
I mean, like maybe twice a year. So I wouldn't even count that as taking care of her.
Okay. So she doesn't have a close relationship with your mom?
She does, but she doesn't stay overnight. Like my mom will normally come to my house.
Okay. Did Jasmine go with you when you were left your husband and were staying in the apartment?
Say that again.
Did Jasmine go with you when you left your husband and you were staying in the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. So that would have been disruptive to her in terms of her schedule and who was in her life?
Your Honor, I guess I'm going to have to object to of testimony that's associated with anything that is predating the last custody order in this case, which was July of 2020. This has been all handled on a prior custody order and would not be able to be considered in these types of proceedings. So anything prior to July 23rd of 2020, particularly whether there was a separation 2.5 years ago, has no bearing and can't be used as evidence on a hearing post July 23rd, 2020, because there is a custody order.
Judge, that's a misstatement of the law. Van Vliet makes it very clear that when the court is looking at, is there a substantial change in circumstance or proper cause shown to address the issues of custody, you're bound by the time period from the last custody order. But when the court is assessing best interest factors, let's say that one parent has an ongoing mental health issue. You can't consider that because that mental health issue existed prior to the last custody order? Of course you can. And when the court is weighing the serious nature of Mr. Bynum's moves, I think the court, in order to look at that in context, has to be aware that there have been other moves and other disruptions in relationships. So I think that is all relevant with respect to this issue.
We're not talking about a continuing mental health issue here, Your Honor. We're talking about whether or not there was a blip in a marriage almost 3 years ago. And to suggest that that somehow is tantamount to evidence necessary to make a determination on, consistency in a relationship is nothing compared to what has been demonstrated by Mr. Bynum's inconsistency in relationships. So those all have occurred since the last order. None of this has occurred since the last order.
I'm going to allow the question, but obviously, given the remoteness, how much weight I give it is probably not very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Clark, is there a reason that Jasmine comes to school in the winter with no socks on? Does she have an allergy or a problem with that, with wearing socks, something like that?
Well, sometimes in the morning when you're trying to get a 5-year-old ready, you pick your battles. And whether that be, fine, don't wear the socks, just wear the boots, or fine, wear that outfit that doesn't match because we got to get out the door. Sometimes you just pick your battles. I don't have an explanation for that other than she probably didn't want to wear them.
And it sounds like you did the assessment for ADHD. You've described some of the problems that you had was her picking up her toys, staying on task at your house, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Does Jasmine continue to take Ritalin during the summer when she's out of school?
Yes.
Why does she need that extra help with her focus during the summer?
Sometimes we can be, or she can be very impulsive, writing on the walls, cutting up Barbie's hair, cutting her own hair, even though me and Mr. Bynum have told her multiple times not to cut your hair, put the scissors down, that stop and, oh, is this a good choice or a bad choice? The Ritalin, the medication helps her focus and hone in on, oh, I need to make sure I'm making a good choice or a choice.
Okay. The court order says that you get the second full weekend of the month unless otherwise agreed upon between the parties. And if that second full weekend is a 3-day weekend from school, then Mr. Bynum gets that and you get a different weekend. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Take a look at defendant's proposed exhibit 18. That's an email from you to Mr. Bynum saying that because of Thanksgiving coming up at the end of the month, you're going to take this weekend as your weekend. November 6th is your weekend. Do you see that email?
Correct.
So
I
if
do
you
see that
normally
email.
get the second weekend of the month, why would Thanksgiving be at the end of the month be relevant to you picking a different weekend?
I believe that weekend we had something going on with my family. And so that week worked better with my grandparents who live in Arkansas.
Okay. I'm not saying that this was a question. I'm seeing that this was simply a statement. You were just telling him you were taking that weekend.
Well, yeah, I was opening up communication.
Okay. So you didn't ask to switch it, you just took it.
I mean, I emailed him, opened up communication, and was expecting a response back and got no response. So I must have been okay.
And he does accommodate you wanting to have Jasmine because your grandfather's not doing well, or to see family from out of state, that kind of thing, doesn't he?
That was one time, and that was recent.
Okay, but last year.
Last year? I thought we were talking about recent.
Okay, I'm looking at November 10th. You said you had family coming in from Arkansas, so you wanted to have her then.
November 10th of last year. This email is dated November 3rd of last year.
I apologize. November
So
3rd, not
what
November
email
10th.
are you talking about?
So November 3rd of last year, you said you had family
Okay.
coming in from Arkansas. So you took a different weekend, is that right?
That is correct.
And then are you also referencing that just recently he also allowed you to have some extra time with her because your grandfather was not doing well?
Well, it wasn't just because of my grandfather. It's because of how the holidays fell on each other's weeks or weekends.
Okay,
So we normally, if I normally just say, hey, let's switch this holiday with this holiday because it falls on your week with her during the summer or during the school year. So then that way it's an easier transition instead of having to get Jazz at 9 a.m. in the morning to only be with that parent for part of the day and then questioning why she has to go back to the other parent. So it just makes it easier to switch. But I go to him to switch that.
and defendant's proposed exhibit 19 is a similar exchange where you're telling him what weekend you want. This time he pushes back and says, no, the court order says we're supposed to agree on what weekend if you're doing a different weekend. You don't just get to pick, right?
Well, I do want to stop you on that one. That was my fault because I misinterpreted what it was actually reading. So I will own that this email was because I misinterpreted it and not fully understanding. But once I became aware, I deeply apologized for the miscommunication and
Thank you.
we freed it up.
Okay, good. And in fact, this is the first year you guys have worked with this particular parenting time order, right?
I
It was
mean,
put in place last summer.
yeah.
So there have been some hiccups.
I mean, quite a few.
Okay. But you've described that your daughter is suffering from not knowing if she's going to get to see you because he withheld her from you on one time. Is that right?
No, no. No, it was on 1, 2. There was 2 incidences. I apologize. 2 incidences.
So as you guys are swapping weekends around and trying to sort out a new parenting time schedule, you're saying twice he picked her up on your time from school?
Yes, he picked her up from school on my time, yes.
2 separate times.
Mm-hmm.
When was that? When was that?
I'm sorry, what?
When? I'm aware of the December of 2020 time. Was there
December
another time?
11th of 2020
Yep.
and December 21st of 2020.
He picked her up December 21st of 2020?
I'm sorry, what? Not December 21st. December 21st, I had to leave work because he wouldn't give Jasmine to me. It's right here in the parenting time complaint form that I filed.
Well, sadly, friend of the court doesn't send those to us, so I don't know anything about that. Let's see. Okay. When you reach this agreement that Jasmine would go to school
I'm
down
sorry,
in
I can't hear. Can you say that again?
when you and Mr. Bynum reached this agreement that Jasmine would go to school down in Lenawee County, you knew how far that was from where Mr. Bynum lived, right?
Yes, I was aware.
Okay. And in fact, the two of you could have picked a school in between your houses so that Jasmine did not have a longer distance to drive to school. Is that right?
I mean, we could have, but I don't think, when you
I
go
have
to a
to- Your Honor,
private
I
school,
have
public
I'm
school.
sorry to interrupt, but I have to draw an objection there. What Ms. Dinky suggests is something that is a legal conclusion by Ms. Clark, that they somehow could pick some school district that they do not live in, that neither of them live in, that is not contiguous. There are a host of issues between ISD issues as well as school district issues and school choice issues that would prohibit them from being in various different institutions. So I can't suggest that there is a possible foundation for her to answer what might have or would have been. And I'd also just object in relevancy.
It's cross-examination. It's a fair question that there were potentially other options out there for school.
That I agree with, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Ms. Denke.
Now you're asking the judge to eliminate the Sunday overnights because you think the drive is too hard on her to come down on Monday morning. Is that right?
Well, I don't think it's just I don't know. I don't think it's just the drive. It's the drive. It's not, having the readiness of getting to school, how it's who's going to take me. That way there's more consistency that she will be home. She'll get showered. She'll be in her bed. She'll have her backpack. She'll have her lunch packed and she'll go to school.
And you're saying it's always going to be you taking her to school. You'll never get called into work or have to go to work at 7 a.m.
I've never said that. It would always be me, but I have people in place that help me and that know Jasmine.
So it's okay for Jasmine to go to school with other people, but the uncertainty of who will be bringing her to school on Monday mornings from Mr. Bynum's house is the problem?
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I never agreed to when we agreed upon this court order that I would be the one to take Jasmine. I never said that I would actually be the one to take Jasmine. I never agreed on that. That's not me. Now, Mr. Bynum did agree that he would be the one taking Jasmine to school on Monday so he could have that extra overnight with her and have that time with her.
Well, no, he's the one responsible for making her. Well, I'm not going to argue with you. Let's move on. In the summer, you've said Jasmine can't do 10 weeks with Mr. Bynum. That would be bad. That's too long.
Not 10 whole weeks, no.
Okay. So given that there is 12 and a half weeks, whatever it is, during the summer, when you negotiated this agreement, how did you think he was going to get his 10 weeks in without doing several weeks in a row?
Well, I figured that we were gonna communicate, and I figured at least when we spoke after this got entered, that it would be no more than 2 weeks at a time. Unfortunately, it was, unfortunately, it was not presented to me that way.
So if he did 2 weeks at 10 weeks, 2 weeks at a time, that would be 5 weeks in between. So now we're up to 15 weeks. How would that happen, that he could get 10 weeks in during the summer with only taking them 2 weeks
I
at a
don't
time?
understand your math, because if he gets her the minute that she gets out of school, so you do 2 weeks, and then I get a week, and then she does 2 weeks, and then I get a week, and then he does 2 more weeks, and then he takes her to school that first day of school. That's how I presumed that it was going to happen. But then the tutoring came about.
Okay. And your testimony was he's never taken her to gymnastics.
He's taken her once.
Okay.
Did he take her? I just asking, did he take her last week? Did your client tell you if he took her last week?
Usually the lawyers don't testify. Did you ask Mr. Bynum if he was all right with you signing her up from gymnastics on his parenting time? Before you
I
did
did.
it.
I actually have an email. Did you not get that email or see that email?
Again, I don't testify. It's been a long day. Let's try and just answer the questions.
Ms. Clark, as
Yeah,
your
Ms.
attorney,
Ms. Clark, you don't get to ask questions, Ms. Clark.
Aaron, you only get to answer the questions asked. If Ms. Dinky's asking you a question,
Okay.
I think what she's trying to ask you basically is, did you talk to him before you signed him up for gymnastics?
I did. He received an email, when it was, what time, where to be, the leotard that I sent to his house before when he was supposed to take Jasmine.
Okay. I think that email is actually in my exhibits that you're referring to. And you're saying that email was you asking him if you could schedule gymnastics during his time?
For
I'm
summer
gonna,
parenting time.
Let's find the exhibit first. So we're all looking at the same email.
Exhibit 8. Ms. Clark, is that the email that you're referring to? Where you
No,
talk
ma'am.
about,
This would have been May of this year.
okay. So where you say that you've attached the address, her class starts at this time, ends at this time. And you send
That was
where it
last year.
is.
That was October of last year.
Right. That's exhibit 8.
Okay, but that's not the email that I'm talking about.
Okay. Then perhaps I misunderstood. Ms. Clark, do you agree that there is an overpayment of child support that Mr. Bynum paid to you?
Your Honor, I guess I'm going to have to object to any questions outside of the scope of these proceedings as it relates to child support or overpayments or things of that nature. Financial aspects were not raised in our petition. If Ms. Dinky's indicating that they did raise a recalculation request in their response, then I guess we're retroactively looking at a recalc going back to the date of filing, if the court ends up finding that a recalc would be appropriate.
Right.
I mean, are we raising child support or are we not raising child support? Because if we are, it should go back to the date of the filing, and we would want to ask all the questions associated with incomes of the parties throughout the whole course. Otherwise, what relevance does any child support have to do with a parenting time adjustment?
We raised in our answer to their motion an affirmative matter that there was an overpayment of child support. So there's $1,335 that Mr. Bynum paid in child support, that when they went back and entered the last child support order, resulted in an overpayment. We indicated in our motion, friend of the court won't order that money returned without a court order.
Then that should be raised in a specific motion so we can address all the financial considerations, not just the parents' time motion and some.
I don't frankly understand that argument, Mr. Stimson. I think she raised it in the response to the motion. I wouldn't make her file a separate motion since you're already going to be here in front of me on this. I think the issue is there ended up being an overpayment. There isn't any other child supported issue, is there?
Not at this time, no.
There may be if the court changes parenting time by 76 overnights, but at this point, no one's asking to change the child support.
I thought I heard someone say earlier that there currently isn't any child support.
Child support set at 0 at this time?
All right, was that by stipulation or is that how
Yes.
the numbers shook out?
That's
That was
by
by
stipulation, based on information
Yeah.
that was part and parcel to our understanding at the time of the mediation.
All right. And is it your contention, Mr. Simpson, that if I were to order the change in parenting time that your client's requesting, that you would expect the court to send this to the friend of the court to do a child support calculation?
No, in fact, we're not asking it. I mean, just to be frank.
I didn't think so. That's what I
Right.
heard. That's what I thought I heard.
We
So the
didn't,
issue is simply, there is a historical overpayment that Ms. Denke's asking me to address. I think I can do that.
okay. We understand.
Ms. Clark, you saw my exhibit 20 showing an overpayment.
Okay.
Are you contesting that there was an overpayment of child support?
Listen, this order was back in 2018. I have no idea about any of it. I'm not FOC, so I don't even know how to answer your question.
So when we raised it in our motion and then in our brief, you didn't go and check with FOC yourself.
Why would I? I don't know. I didn't know.
It's a simple question. I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Judge.
Redirect.
Aaron, let's talk a little bit about Ryan and some of the questions that were asked of you. That generally speaking, Ryan doesn't care for Jazz. Is that fair to say?
No. Ryan loves Jazz.
But he's not the day-to-day care provider.
But say that again, I apologize.
Let me say it this way. You and Ryan live together, right?
Yes.
And Jazz may look to him because you all live in the same house. Is that fair to say?
Right.
She looks to him for guidance and direction. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Right.
And on occasion, he may have to take her to school because something comes up, and as life does.
Correct.
Someone she's comfortable with, that she acknowledges, that she has regularly in her life.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, you're the person that picks her up from school and drops her off at school.
Me or my nanny, depending on my work. Yes.
Okay. And that isn't the same situation as Mr. Bynum. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
He doesn't live with and hasn't lived with his child's mother.
Judge, again, I'm going to object unless she has personal knowledge of who he's living with.
She does have personal knowledge. She testified previously that where he lives, and Mr. Burnham's address and who lives in the house, and she doesn't live there.
Actually, she testified that she doesn't know, but she thinks that he's at his mom's. And that certainly, based on even your own pleadings, has not been the entire case.
So the objection is that she has no personal knowledge of
The question
where
was,
the
he
mother
said-
of his other child lives.
the question was, has he ever lived with her? And she's saying no.
It's
And
not
I'm
the question.
objecting. Maybe I misunderstood your question. I
The question is,
apologize.
they don't currently live together.
Oh, I missed the currently. So if you said currently live together, I misunderstood.
Let me I'll just withdraw it so that we have a cleaner record and ask the question more directly, if you don't mind, Your Honor. Aaron, to the best of your knowledge, does Larry currently live with the mother of his other child?
No,
Does he currently live with the mother of his third child?
that would be me. No.
So Larry has 3 children
Yes.
by 3 different mothers,
Yes.
and he doesn't live with any of them that you're aware of.
Say that again. You cut out.
He doesn't live with any 3 of the mothers.
No, not to my knowledge. No.
So suggesting that she be driven back and forth by another mother who doesn't live with him is different than suggesting that she'd be driven back and forth occasionally by someone who lives with her regularly.
Correct.
Is it your understanding, based upon the records, that Jasmine spent most of her weekends with the mother of his other child, Miss Kim, I forget her last name?
Mackie. Yes. There have been times where I've had to pick her up over there.
So you know where she lives.
I do know where she lives. Yes.
So based upon the work records, you having to pick her up and FaceTime calls, it's your impression that Jasmine spent the majority of the time with Miss Mackey and not with Mr. Bynum.
That is correct.
And did you address this with Mr. Bynum?
I have, and I tried, and I'm told that it is none of my business.
No other questions at this time.
Okay, so let's, any other witnesses, Mr. Stimson?
No, I assume Miss Dinky will call Mr. Bynum, and as long as she's willing to do that, I'll wait for cross.
That's my plan.
I'll let her call him.
All
I don't
right.
have any other witnesses.
Assuming the court needs to hear from him and hasn't concluded that there's not enough here to change parenting time.
Well, I do need to hear from him, but
That's
the one
fine.
thing I want to hear from him most about is when is he working?
Mhm.
And is he still in an arrangement where the child is spending most of the child's weekends with someone other than Mr. Bynum? Yes, I do want to hear about that.
Good.
So let's address that first.
Okay.
Mr. Bynum, raise your right hand, please.
Judge, I
Do
wonder
you
if we
swear
could
to-
take a quick bathroom break before we get going?
Oh, of course. Sorry. Let's do that.
And then we'll come back. Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.